get to, so let's get to it. First, we're going to start at fire and smoke, the summer of fire and smoke. The summer the sun turned red, says the Globe and Mail. Canadians wake up to the reality of climate change under a veil of smoke. This is like we're watching a movie and we are in the movie, right? Like the aliens have landed, we're in Independence Day. What are you going to do, right? And really, they're going for it because one of the first things I do in an article like this, climate change, are we based in reality here? Are we going to even mention the real world, or are we just going to propagandize and make crap up for the whole article? So I do Control F, and then I type in arson, see up here, and it looks for that. And look what happens when you look for that. Nothing. You cannot find it. It says, nope, arson. No, that's the sound where it says, nope, that's arson. What do you mean arson? Arson? Here is the article. Just a part of it, just to give you a little taste of how the Globe and Mail wants to fearmonger about this. A red sun over Montreal, crops withering in the field, thousands of people fleeing a territorial capital, smoke blanketing cities from Toronto to Ottawa to New York. These are not scenes out of a dystopian novel, but pulled straight from Canada's summer of fire and smoke, now cresting in the frightening evacuations of Yellowknife and Kelowna, right? Tune in Friday. Severe wildfires from Nova Scotia to British Columbia have cast a literal pall over the country, just as they have wreaked havoc around the world. From Maui to Greece to China, both as an everyday irritant and health scare, and as a dark manifestation of global warming. Arson, pish posh. That's just a minor aspect of this, arson. The more than 20,000 residents of the Northwest Territories who have been ordered to leave their homes, often along highways turned into corridors of flame, comes as the latest and most extreme reminder that the effects of a heating planet are literally at our doors. Imagine driving your electric vehicle down the highways turned into corridors of flame. How confident would you be that your car is going to be just fine and, get you there, right? Like, I don't know. The whole thing seems strange. So why do I say arson? Because if you Google Yellowknife arson, Google is not reliable these days, but it used to be. It used to be so reliable, it changed the word search to Google it, right? Search for it, Google it, right? Crazy. And now, not reliable at all. However, sometimes they're good for illustrating a point. Top stories when you search Yellowknife arson. In Yellowknife, police fear an arsonist behind the lines. Northwest Territories, RCMP say Thursday night fire in Yellowknife is believed to be arson. Overnight arson attempt in Yellowknife. As it happened, more than 19,000 people leave Yellowknife. So there are evacuations, all of this other stuff. And this is just one example, but arson has been suspected in a lot of the more recent fires. And if you've got evangelical people who believe in climate change and the need to do for the greater good what needs to be done to convince the public that climate change is an existential threat, then you'll go and you'll light these things on fire, these forests that are ready to go up. And you'll say, it's not my fault. All of those casualties were necessary to bring about the change that we wanted to bring about. That's what they're saying. That's what they feel like. And I was on a plane 2 weeks ago and then yesterday. And so I watched a couple of James Lindsay speeches. And one of the interesting things that he was talking about is how the people who are behaving in hypocritical ways, the people who are doing things, their words, like we have to worry about climate change, don't match their actions, like flying around in private jets. And he actually uses the private jets thing as his example. And he says the people who do that don't see their hypocrisy because he's couching this in a Gnostic religion, and that's a bit more complicated than this show right now, but they know the truth. Gnostic, no, they know the truth. And so they're fighting climate change. So their use of CO2 and all of the rest in their charge against climate change is virtuous, is good, is the net good for humanity. But our use of CO2 and gasoline in our cars and flying to a southern destination for a week off or whatever, that's bad because we're exploiting the earth. You see the difference? They know what's right to do, and fighting climate change is the right thing to do. And therefore, because they know and they're right, they get to unhypocritically use fossil fuels to fight climate change while they go to their, elite resorts, eat the best food and fight climate change. Whereas we don't know, and we're not allowed to use those resources because that might climate change something. So that's they don't see themselves as hypocritical. And it's the same with the people who are lighting these fires. They don't see themselves as hypocritical because they know that lighting the fires is for the greater good to bring about the change they want to bring about, because global warming is an existential threat. And if they don't light these things on fire, they're going to light on fire in 100 years. So they're crazy. They're round the bend nuts. They're crazy, but they think they're right. And they have a structure, a framework in place to justify it to themselves. Just like the guy who was standing there and somebody said, do you not see lighting this post office on fire as an act, like that's arson? You don't see that as an act of violence? And he said, no, this is a peaceful protest. And stand there and you go, what? Because he knows, right, that the right thing to do is to tear down capitalism and the United States and democracy, because the right thing to do is communism. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit. They're crazy, but that's the framework they're working within. And I think James Lindsay does it much better. So go listen to a couple of hours of him and we can talk. John says, over the past 3 decades, that's 30 years, Western Canada experienced multiple large outbreaks of native bark beetles. The mountain pine beetle outbreak affected approximately 20 million hectares of forest in British Columbia between 2000 and 2020. Making it ripe for forest fires. So I was in Newfoundland and I was driving along just, rural kind of remote areas of Newfoundland. And what struck me was there was a whole lot of dead trees. And I said to somebody that I was traveling with, I said, what do you think the forest management's like? Is this area of the forest set to have all that dead wood removed, or is a lightning strike going to do it for them? And so there is a serious concern because they're using this to justify, they're using these fires that are not climate change. They're part of the circle of life and all of that. They're using this to further their agenda, the climate agenda, et cetera. And so it's pretty wild. And Friends of Science says, imagine how dry it is now standing for a decade, right? So the wood, if you have like a backyard fire pit or something to that effect, and you have wood, you can cut it on 1 year and then you dry it and then you use it, right? And drying it could be 6 months to a year. I don't do this a lot, but 6 months to a year of drying, right? Maybe less, I don't know. But if you've got 10 years, if you've got wood that's dead, that's sitting there for 10 years, it's probably going to burn like a lot, right? How is Montana for the ash beetle? I really don't know. I'm genuinely asking. I don't know. But here is pictures and a video from the Montana wildfire. And this is today and yesterday, August 20th. No, it's actually this morning. So 6 o'clock this morning. Here we go.
We're in Montana. Doesn't help that it's 93 degrees out here.
So it's almost a 2-minute video. I'll let that go. One question I have: BC has had a carbon tax since 2008, and they've got this fire burning in Kelowna. They don't have a fire response team. They have all this money. They have a carbon tax. What does the carbon tax go for? To prevent the fire in Kelowna, to fight the fire in Kelowna? Is there any kind of money for this kind of stuff? Where is it? Why isn't there any kind of fund for this kind of stuff? Why aren't we using carbon tax money to have a rapid response team to potential wildfires that start? Why aren't we better at forest management to minimize the potential for these tinderboxes to get out of hand? There's a whole bunch of questions that don't have good answers. Let's talk about the Maui wildfire a little bit here, because the Maui wildfire it seems like the people in Hawaii are looking at it like it's a land grab, and I think they're correct in their assessment of that. And there's horrific stories that kids were at home and now they're all missing and presumed dead by the fire, and that is a horrific thing to go through as a parent, I would imagine. But what the concerning part is, there weren't warnings. There was no fire people en route. Apparently the police were holding people in place on Front Street. There's all sorts of stories that are coming out about the Maui stuff where emergency services didn't do anything, didn't respond. These people are taxpayers. Why didn't they respond? You have to wonder. Here's a minute, and this guy's asking, why wasn't the siren sounded? The response is, that would have sent people up into the mountains. But then at the end of the clip, the news broadcaster fact checks that, and the siren was used for all kinds of natural disasters and man-made disasters. So while what he says sounds plausible, the news kind of not discounts it, but it says that he's not telling the truth here, or the truth is colored. It's not exactly what this guy's saying. So here we go.
Do you regret not sounding the sirens?
I do not. And the reason why...
So many people said they could have been saved if they had time to escape. Had a siren gone off, they would have known that there was a crisis emerging. And as we know, so many bodies were found in the ground as the flames caught their heels.
Give me the answer.
The sirens, as I mentioned earlier, is used primarily for tsunamis. And that's the reason why many of them are found, almost all of them are found, on the coastline. The public is trained to seek higher ground in the event that the siren is sounded. Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Malka. And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire. By the way, I should also note that there are no sirens Malka, or on the mountainside, where the fire was spreading down. So even if we sounded the siren, it would not have saved those people on the mountainside, Malka.
According to the state's own government website, those sirens can be used for a variety of natural and human-caused events, including wildfires.
So, fact check. And why didn't you sound the alarms? Because your answer was kind of bullshit. Very interesting. Here's the governor of Hawaii, and he says independent journalism about what's going on in Maui is dangerous and discouraged, and that sources outside of the government should not be trusted. So here is a part of that. It's 4 minutes and 15 seconds. You know what? I'm not going to play it because I don't have the smoking gun piece. Hold on. Let's see if I can cue it up. Let's see if I can find it. All right. It was actually right at the beginning, so I'm glad I checked. Here we go.
Reporting through social media is idiotic. Don't use social media. Do not rely on people who fancy themselves as influencers. The word influencer, right off the bat, suggests that they want to influence you.
Get off your phone. Get off your tablet.
So that's it. I don't fancy myself an influencer. If I'm influencing you to do anything, I'm influencing you, hopefully, to look more into the stories that I show you, to verify for yourself that what I'm saying is true, or to look deeper into it, because there's probably more to the story than what I can cover in my short time here on the show, giving you an overview of what's going on, right? So, like, if you take anything away from this show, is be skeptical even of things I say, and check for yourself, because you have to check for yourself these days, because holy effing crap. And if you check for yourself, I've been in this situation where you check for yourself, and then the Twitter page or the Instagram page says the thing that you think that it verifies it, and then you find out later that everybody was lying, and it got found out that everybody was lying. So even when you verify, and I think there was a situation recently where that exact thing happened, where I reported it because it was reported, the 2 kids who died, right? This kid and her brother died, and then everybody and his dog reported it. And I said, well, that seems suspicious. And I didn't look into it as much as I should have. And then the next day, a reporter reported about how it was all total nonsense, and it wasn't actually a legit death or anything like that. And all these people reported it as fact. Crazy stuff, right? Crazy stuff. So you can get caught up. That's what I'm saying. So influencer, what the heck, man? If you're decorating your room, sure, influencer. But for like real world stuff, you should check for yourself, really. Here's a Burlington fire. Now, I don't know if this is, I don't know if this is a part of the broader fire attack, but I feel like this whole thing, this fire thing across the West, not just in Canada, but in Maui and everywhere else, is a coordinated attack. It is not like a terrorist attack, like the 9/11 attacks, like the bombings, like all of the rest of it. This is an attack. This is not, oh no, climate change. And the fact that the news is talking about how this is climate change is very concerning, because I can't imagine them turning a blind eye to this. We've had weather like this in years past. We've had summers like this. We've had hotter summers than this, and things weren't exploding into, fires that couldn't be put out, or fires that required evacuations for Northwest Territories, towns, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very skeptical that what they're telling us is true. And how do you inform people? I mean, the government responded to the 9/11 attacks, and poorly. The government responded to the bombing attacks in the UK, the 2 bombing attacks. The government responds to these terrorist attacks poorly. What happens when the government themselves, it seems, is propagating a fear campaign against its own people? How do you stop that? Because usually you think, yeah, the government's going to get, oh man, don't you start a war. If you commit a terrorist action against the United States or against Canada, against the West, boy, howdy, you're going to get it, right? But it doesn't seem like that's true, because look what's happening. It seems like this is a coordinated attack. And what's happening is the United States is doubling down and saying, oh no, it must be climate change. Bullshit. Anybody with sense looks at this and says there's more going on here. Anybody with sense. And if the leaders can't see it, they should be thrown in jail and arrested and investigated. Holy smoke. Here is the Burlington Fire from the Canada Poly Chat. And it's not playing because I don't know why. Hold on a second. Here is the Burlington Fire again. But this, I mean, like the food plants, it seems like one of those things where it could just be a coincidence, a fire that happened because it happened, or it could be part of a broader attack. I'm not sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.